planeta viveu uma de suas maiores revoluções nas últimas décadas. O avanço da tecnologia e a chegada do digital mudaram quase tudo nas nossas vidas. Aprender, trabalhar, comer, descansar, se relacionar. Tudo hoje passa pelo mundo digital. E um dos pais dessa revolução é Steve Wozniak, que é o convidado dessa edição do CNN Entrevistas especial. Ele é engenheiro e cofundador da Apple, ao lado de outro Steve, Steve Jobs. Wozniak inventou o primeiro computador pessoal. Depois, criou uma tela colorida e conectou o teclado. E o resto é história. História que hoje a gente carrega no bolso. O Wozniak esteve aqui no Brasil para a Bavie Expo, que voltou ao Rio de Janeiro depois de mais de uma década. A FEComércio Rio foi a grande parceira do evento e também trouxe o Wozniak ao Brasil. Na entrevista, ele fala sobre a história da Apple, redes sociais, privacidade, China, como ele pensa o futuro e até do novo cabo USB-C do iPhone.
Mr. Wozniak, thank you so much for your time with CNN Brasil. Your inventions changed the world. And if you look now, today, what is a technology or maybe a gadget then can change the future? It's possible to look at the future and to see something so deep that your inventions.
It's very hard to say because didn't see the future when we started Apple. Just thought we were taking a great step with a great product and it would, be successful in its time. But what would it lead to? We couldn't envision that one transistor would turn into 60 billion transistors and eventually the computers would get smarter and smarter, do more and more for us. We didn't predict that we'd have, when we started Apple, the cost for one song in memory was $1 million. Did we predict you're going to have little chips with 500 movies on them? So it's very hard to look too far in the future. You could look 1 year because you're designing the products for the next year. 2 years, every time I made a guess for 2 years ahead, I was wrong. So other products came that I didn't expect. People did things you didn't imagine. And who could, how do you predict these things that are such big hits? If they were predictable in advance, everyone would do them. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to still continue to live with a device that holds in our hand. Yeah. And it's not going to, and about that size and shape and what it does is going to be pretty constant. Look at a car. How many, 150 years and it pretty much stayed same size, 4 wheels, a compartment, it holds people and they do the same things they did. So sometimes technologies get to a kind of a static point. They level off and, that's what they are.
But looking for the technology now, something shine more than others for you in technology now?
Well, technology that's coming up in the future, we read about all the articles people working on, whether it's quantum computers, and some of them may or may not happen. The status of AI, will it be like a real person thinking? Mm-hmm. There's a lot still out on that, but whatever it is, it's going to help humans. Mm-hmm. It's just technology, it's going to help humans. It'll be a tool, and it won't be what if it got smarter than humans? We'd kill it off. Probably. What if aliens came? Other technology, we're increasing, we're still able to have a little bit of Moore's Law and increase the speed of computers a bit and more capability and more memory on a single chip that only costs, maybe $1 to make. And virtual reality. We're talking about the metaverse. I don't see humans going over to living in a metaverse full time. I loved Ready Player One, the book, and they had their metaverse. But when you think about virtual reality, you turn your head, you wear it, you're looking at where you are maybe. That's augmented reality. Turn your head and you see what's up above you. Turn your head, you see what's down, turn sideways instantly. Well, imagine one high resolution camera like the one focused on us. It's a lot of megapixels. And then you've got to have that kind of camera 10 times around your head and 10 times sideways around you. That's like 100 times the resolution that's already very high for today's bandwidth. So we still need greater broadband than we have. And I'm hoping that'll come. I'm hoping it comes, that virtual reality just becomes so perfect, better than it is even today.
Great. You mentioned on AI. You mentioned that this kind of technology will not completely change our lives. Why?
It won't think like a human. There's nothing's been shown yet that AI will say, what's a good thing to work on today? Or it would have to say, what would humans like? Secondly, AI doesn't think for itself, doesn't create anything. You can have this beautiful article on, why we should follow this procedure to modify something our company's doing. Beautifully written out for you, but it's all grabbed from pieces on the internet, on the web. And how do you trust it? So I'm proposing a type of regulation. I'm not just one of those people who says the word regulation. Some of the top people in AI are saying it should be regulated.
So now we can compare the AI way to show the information like a new kind of index of internet, of the web.
Yeah, but what is true and what is not? Truth has always been so critical to me more than most people. And AI is used by bad people. It accelerated their ability, it amplified their ability to trick us, deep fakes it's called. Where I hear somebody's voice that I talk to every day, and oh my God, they're trying to send money quick. That's we've given them a new tool, the bad people, and that I don't like. I wish we thought things out so that really is very hard to do, or very strong regulation against using it that way.
And how to explain this big buzz on the AI? When you talk on the corporations or with the people at the universities, everybody is speaking on AI. Why this buzz?
Oh, we get certain topics in the news that become the hype of the day, the important thing. We had a situation similar to this in around the year 2000, a little before 2000, where all these companies were starting up saying, we're going to use the internet to do things that have never been done. And they all got investments from the venture capitalists and got over invested in. People can't change their styles of life and their habits that quickly. So they all kind of failed. We had the dot-com bust in 2001. And the streets in Silicon Valley, you got drivable. It was so much less traffic. People were moving out. San Jose, California, only lost population once in its history, 2003. So I guess that's a good side of it. And this hype feels very much the same. Everybody has to jump on. All the money has to go that way. And I think we're going to also see, there's a possibility we're going to see a big bust soon.
So it's possible to see a bubble?
That's for companies that are starting up saying, we're doing this with AI, this with a bubble. Yeah.
Okay. And looking for the difference between the artificial intelligence and the human being intelligence, what is the room of emotion or the human being on that?
Almost every decision we make and every choice we make, we have a feeling inside. Somehow we have a brain, but somehow it tells us how this is going to feel to me, why this is right or wrong, good. It's not like a spreadsheet that turns out one answer. And that's more like the human brain side of things. So and we're always going to, the most important things in our lives lead to emotions. And AI has just obviously, it just reads like it doesn't have emotion, but it's very good information. I think of AI as a reporter, but you need a human to oversee it and be the editor and say, what information am I going to put to other humans? What am I going to, pass on from this? And, oh my gosh, I see something in there that's just wrong, or it's not the way my type of people think, or whatever. Human editor still. So we're not going to lose our jobs just because there's AI. We can let it go. For example, what if something unusual happens on the highway, for example, and they hold up a sign, put some words on it that direct you pretty clearly to some other road? AI doesn't know what words mean at all. So how can it ever operate and drive a car?
So where the AI will be useful for what kind of business or sector?
AI will be useful for almost everyone in every sector of life. Yeah. And if you're in business and you want to make reports to your managers as to what our strategy should be, ask AI to print a strategy for such and such, but read it. Read it and make sure that it all passes, edit out a little, some things you don't want to pass on. Still have human control, but everything we do in life, really, and AI is going to be built into, any sort of work we do. Get better. Now, they have AI that's writing software. But there's two sides of this coming out. A lot of problems with that alone. So you still need the human that kind of understand it enough to figure it out. So I just think AI, estimating what you're going to want to know next, what you're going to do next. Here's an example. I don't know if they call it AI, but for quite a long time, I type on my computer and it corrects the words when I misspell them. I like that. I like that. There's some level of helping me I like, but there's some levels that make us forget how to think for ourselves. Like I got a calculator. Now I hardly ever do calculations in my head. You know, even if it's 5 + 8, I can type into the computer better. So we become less capable purely as humans with every time there's new technology that kind of does it so easily. And this may be a real crux that, you know, really changes things for humans, but I'm still betting humans will be in control.
Great. What a big concern today is about privacy. How do you feel the problem of privacy and the technology?
Yeah, I'm one of the founders of the EFF that represents technology in the United States, like the ACLU, civil liberties, civil rights. And privacy is one of those things. I should have, if I want to keep something private, it should be private. If I want to tell my wife something, it should be private. You shouldn't be reading my lips, for example. And now everything we do, privacy was lost a long time ago. Everything you're doing, you don't even know the extent to which databases and terabytes are being filled up with everything you've ever done, everything about your life. And if we are what is in our brain, our memories of the past, they're stored better on the internet. Am I here or am I on the internet? And that bothers me so much that I dropped out of a lot of the social web, like Facebook and all that. I do not want to socialize that way because they're just paying attention to learning about me to advertise, to show me ads of things I might buy. And I'd rather be a thinker first, just think, enjoy life. Yeah, so I'm against the invasions on our privacy. The trouble is they're so far already. What can you complain? If I think it's private, it should be. If a human being thinks what they're doing is private, a user, it should be. I'm always for the users against the big suppliers, the corporations and governments. But so it's sad to see when privacy gets violated and people can't sort of be what they feel like being.
And how to protect your privacy information that you want to keep secret.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I might just say, I'm for something to a friend, one friend on an email. Mm-hmm. And now that's all recorded and known and popped in as some aspect of me, or maybe I made a comment about LGBTQ or whatever. And it shouldn't be. It should just be my feelings. You know, it's like freedom of speech in a way. Mm-hmm. And the freedom of speech gets violated if you're being watched. But, you know, freedom of speech was very, very slight now and tentative. Very little protection.
And do you use social media?
I avoid social media. I've never been social in my life. I did use Facebook for 3 months only. Yeah. As a real user. I mean, and the trouble is, I read nice stories all the time. I had 5,000 Facebook friends, and I didn't know any of them. So to see I'd never get to the articles of the people I really know, but I saw lots of neat things that really entertained me. And I found myself scrolling all the time to see the next. And that's a habit. Habits are addiction. I'm against addiction. Being out of control of making your own decisions. So I stopped it totally, dropped my Facebook account for that and the privacy reasons. And, you know, so I dropped Facebook and I don't socialize on Google or any other place. I watch TikTok, but only for what it feeds me as entertainment. Yeah. It learned to only send me animal rescue stories where humans help animals, or buskers singing on street corners. That's about it. So I'm not interacting with anyone, and I'm careful before I even click a like button, but it knows what I watch.
Are you concerned on China and how China deal with technology and your information?
No, I'm non-competitive, and I think that we should always communicate well and work together well. That's why you should not have enemies in other countries. You should try to be friends with the ones that are your enemies and establish ways you work together. That's better. Then you have a chance of communicating and getting them to see some of your values and maybe change a little, and you might change a little towards theirs. So I don't think of China that way. I just think of China on my visits and talking to really smart engineers and people, you know, that are so well trained in mathematics and capable of stuff. And so just because they're the oncoming kind of future replacing the United States economically in the world, a lot of people in the United States, it's easy to make them get into, it's fear tactics. Fear tactics take us into wars that are wrong and bad. So no, I don't have any of those problems. I wish we would open up everything we could with China Let them do what they do well. Let us do what we do well and share economically.
And on social media, are you okay with companies like Meta or Google that make money with our information? Is this business model is okay for you?
Well, there's things about the business model that are okay, but they should offer to share it with you. It came from you. It's all your life. Why don't you, if they're going to make $1 million from it, give you half of it. Just share it, something like that, because it was you. And or give me a price I can pay that you won't take any of my information for advertising. And they've never done that. And probably because you'd find out what your little information about who you talk to, what words you do, what you like, that all of that is worth maybe $1,000 a month or $100 a month. You'd find out what the value is, and you'd never want to pay it. They say that Apple can be protective because Apple charges so much for its stuff. But for iCloud, it's $2 a month. $2 a month, and I get a huge amount of privacy. I can share albums with a whole bunch of friends. We can comment on them, pictures, and nobody else gets them in the outside world. And it's not used for advertising. I mean, if it's used by Apple, but it sure isn't made available to anyone else in the world.
We are in Brazil, in Rio, and this city is absolutely incredible, beautiful, and with a creativity industry so huge. What is the role of creativity on technology, and how to deal with both skill?
From my point of view, I don't know that there's a rule. I was not a businessman. I was an engineer, and it comes to you. Things come to you that you're capable of. Whatever you are good of, you value, and then you want to do for your life. So creativity, though, that means making something new that didn't exist. Some of us will go around and we're natural inventors, but we make up jokes wherever we go and make up pranks, and we do things for a lot of fun in life. And that's things that didn't exist that you make up. And you feel proud about it. You're really good. So creative people are going to be that way. How do you find creative people? You can find somebody from the university. Like, say Apple has a project in Brazil, and we need a certain project. We need certain skill sets. We hire people that have those skill sets. We interview them and hire them. There's a little problem in that. If you enjoy working, you're a lot more productive. If you enjoy your job, I ask my own kids, they love the people they work with. And if they hate their job and ready to leave it, their boss is just, I can't tolerate my boss. It's miserable times. Personalities interact in different ways. Some go together well, and some are very different and fight each other. So when you hire for projects, you want your group to be creative. Make sure there are some steps that every company takes to make sure they kind of know each other and get along. But that should be really looked at much more importantly. Sometimes companies would be better off if the CEO is a psychologist.
And would you travel the world talking with the people? You visit a lot of countries. And how do you feel the difference between the Brazilian people and the relation with the technology if you compare Brazil with other countries?
Well, every country, it's okay in my mind, ever since I was young, that they would be different, have different cultures, different rules, different laws. Some things that we think are abhorrent, other countries make it the law, when they do it. So that might be how they treat women or something like that. And I think they have a right to, or how they treat young workers. It might not meet our art standards, but it's a different country. They get to have their own standard. And we're lucky in Silicon Valley to be one of the most diverse parts of the United States. More than half the people speak non-English, and they came from all over the world, largely from, India and the Far East. But they came from all over the world, and you just don't think of any difference in people. It doesn't have to be. You have to look just like me to be accepted. No, we work together, and it works well.
Great. And let's talk about Apple. What do you feel on Apple now? Still as a creative place, creating the future, Apple nowadays?
Sure. I know workers at Apple, and they always speak that way. That's all they're trying to do is really create better products for people. Apple got started by building products that were good. You paid a certain amount of money for a certain product, and you got it and you owned it. Nowadays, a lot of the world has gone to like streaming models. And if you're going to start a new company, you don't start it by selling a product for what it's worth. You have a subscription, and it goes through the cloud, and we control things in the cloud and advertise and everything. And that's how we make more money. And a person, when they subscribe, it's like a credit card. You don't know what the cost of something is. It's just per month. Okay, this month I don't. And it's hard to really. We've gotten away from you buy something and you own it. And Apple is more you buy it and you own it. They're more in that category. Not a lot of these per whatever services. And that's why people are willing to pay more. They know that Apple continually don't make any errors. Don't make some horrible products that people hate. Make sure you keep the value and the goodness in what you make.
But Apple nowadays are under huge criticism on the sometimes lack of innovation. How to
Well, here's a funny thing. You take any industry, any development, and it kind of goes up, innovating, so much change, and then you kind of hit a peak. You kind of hit a point where for a while you're at a plateau, and you don't create really brand new things for a while. And Apple, sometimes some of the features that are like in phones. Apple's sometimes the leader that does things the best or the first. Sometimes it's another company, Samsung. Sometimes it's, Google. And it can't be that one company can always be number one. But if you look at the popularity among people, users are more important than producers. And look at the users, and the iPhone has won, the most in the world. I don't know in Brazil if there's more iPhones or more Android, but it's at least close.
Yeah, we have no.
So what kind of creativity? What could Apple do other than totally change the model of a phone? But we've got this one thing that fits in your hand and kind of does everything. And I don't think that's going to change much over time in the decades ahead. Cars got to a plateau and they didn't change.
And in the last show of the new iPhone, they announced a huge innovation, a huge change on the iPhone, but actually they changed the USB-C port. Yeah, what's your opinion on that?
That Apple was a bad company not to have done it 5 years before. Mm-hmm. Everything should be in the worldwide. It's better when you have worldwide standards. Well, think about the standard, one worldwide standard called Wi-Fi. Everywhere you go in the world, it works. Thank heavens, and for Apple to have its own special little connector. I don't know if it was for profits, proprietary reasons why. I did not like it. So I'm glad. It's a mess to change, though, because now everything can be USB-C. That's the new connector. Well, if you go to a hotel, they have USB-A. If you go on an airplane, they have USB-A. If you go to an airport, they have USB. So everywhere in the world hasn't changed yet. And so Apple's just in the curve. They kind of got caught up to it because the European Union's going to pass some laws saying you have to charge with USB-C. There are some other benefits even for data that comes out of it.
And you like universal standard for electronic devices?
Anywhere in the world, but we have different power plugs all over the world. We never quite got there with power plugs. But like I said, Ethernet and Wi-Fi. Some things are really nice when you just buy, especially if you travel. If you travel, good, I have it and it'll work anywhere.
And on Apple, what you can say on Steve Jobs? What's your memories on that?
Steve Jobs was a brilliant thinker. He didn't start the company. I did. I myself. My product was all of Apple's revenues for the first 10 years that built up a huge company with a huge amount of money that later Steve Jobs could come back and utilize for his own projects that all failed. Now, when he spoke ideas that were so beautiful to the brain about how things should be. When he made decisions at Apple, you might say, why this or that? Who cares? Tiny thing. He was always on the right side, though. He was always better. I mean, you go back to our logo, 6 colors. They were in rainbow order from red to blue. He took it home and he modified it to put a green stem at the top and some darker colors at the bottom. It was better. Anybody could say it wouldn't really matter, but it really was better. And every time he spoke, it was just like so right by thinking people's minds. Didn't always agree with him, but usually did. He was just right on target. He was kind of mean and cruel and acting like he knew everything. He was narcissistic a bit, and that turned people off to him, some people off. But no, thank God we had him. The world we have today, isn't the one I invented. I invented computers. Yeah. I knew computers. Steve Jobs didn't. Okay, and he had no success inventing computers. They all failed. If he had been the one to start Apple, it would have just been a failure without my computer. I was 5 years ahead of the world. But later on, Steve Jobs left the company because his Macintosh failed real bad, and he couldn't get the company to do the wrong things that would have killed the company to try to save it. It took 3 more years to build a Macintosh market. I built it with John Sculley, the CEO, were the ones that built that market. But Steve Jobs came back. Did our company valuation rise over its Apple II days? No. Steve Jobs hugged a computer you could see into. Johnny Ives. Did our valuation rise? No. Steve Jobs brought an operating system, Unix, that we could use for decades ahead and not have computer crashes all the time. Did our valuation go up? No. But Steve Jobs, thank God he got rid of anyone who leaked was fired. Thank God for that. That was good. There was too many leaks of every product coming out. You knew about it as it was developed. And he created the iPod. And he didn't know computers, but he knew what good products were. And that was the best music device ever. Our sales doubled, our stocks doubled, the board gave him billions of dollars in options and all that. Well deserved. That was his Apple II. That was his real start of what we have today. And then came the iPhone. Every detail had to be right for himself. And that was well thought out for an average person, not necessarily a technical wizard and geek. And that made the touch technology, all the ways to create it that would work on a phone. That's where we are today.
If you can separate your job and the other Steve job, what is the main legacy of Steve Jobs?
Well, the main legacy is starting Apple as a company. You know, foreseeing that there could be a big business in this. If you don't have somebody who wants to start a business, you don't start it. You don't go somewhere. No, he was constantly driven to work, even 18 hours a day. Every little thing that needed to be done anywhere, he would get on it. He did not want this company to fail. I was just an engineer.
And your legacy will be which one? The main one?
Probably bringing the digital world to us as an engineer. Being the engineer that really thought it out and brought useful, affordable equipment, started the whole revolution. Yeah, I think that's going to be my legacy. There's other things that I kind of wish it would be, that I knew who I was as a person, and I never sold out. And I gave away the big money because I never wanted big money, just great computers. And that sort of legacy. I knew who I was, and I stuck with it. I know to this day I have been that person. And I defined that person when I was 18 years old.
Right. Wonderful. And if you can create in a magical move a dream gadget, what is the dream gadget now for you?
Well, a dream gadget would be just a machine that totally knows me all the time and helps me in my life. Real good personal assistant, and doesn't make too many mistakes. Because here's one of the problems: whenever we have great technology that's sort of thinking for us, when it makes a mistake, when it can't do what we really want or need, it doesn't understand what we need right now, this minute, this hour. It's harder to fix. It's harder to deal with than if we just gone and done it ourselves without the help. So it's hard to say, but the dream device for me would be pretty much what was in Apple's advertisement under John Sculley, called the Knowledge Navigator. And you could go back and look up that commercial, the history behind it, the people that were behind it. Alan Kay was instrumental. He was a key thinker at Apple. And the whole idea was, it was just a perfect thinking machine for you, like our personal assistants.
So probably you will be the Siri.
I would hope to ask, a question with 8 words, everyone meaningful, that you'd ask a human. And the machine could understand me. My personal assistant could understand me. Not quite there yet.
Mr. Wozniak, thank you so much for your time. Thank you. Good news.
Muito obrigado a você que nos acompanhou nesta edição do CNN Entrevistas Especial Tecnologia. Até a próxima.